Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking this evening. Following pressure from investors and employees, Sam Altman returns as the CEO of OpenAI just 5 days after he was fired by the board. Former Salesforce executive Brett Taylor will be the new chairman, and former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has been roped in as a new board member. The CEO of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, steps down and pleads guilty to violating anti-money laundering provisions in the U.S. Binance agrees to pay a hefty $4.3 billion in penalties in a deal that's likely to preserve the company's ability to remain in business. Israel agrees to a 4-day ceasefire in the Gaza. Hamas will release 50 Israeli women and children as part of the deal, which was brokered by Qatar. Israel will release 150 Palestinian prisoners, all women and children. Rescue workers resumed drilling to prepare an escape passage for 41 people trapped inside an under-construction tunnel in Uttarakhand for the last 11 days. Authorities say they expect a breakthrough within the next 24 hours. The Sensex and the Nifty recover in the last hour of trade, ending in the green. 5 IPOs open for subscription today. Tata Tech, along with 3 others, see strong demand and are fully subscribed on day one.
Now is the time for them to further strengthen their risk management practices, build additional buffers to face the situation if the business cycle turns adverse.
Build buffers and avoid exuberance, says the RBI governor to banks and NBFCs just days after tightening rules on personal loans and unsecured credit. Cautions that expansion of credit must be in sync with risks. Shares of Adani Ports decline in trade after uncertainty over the award of West Bengal's Tajpur port. This after Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee invites interested parties to bid for the port at the Bengal Global Business Summit. Bajaj Auto Managing Director Rajiv Bajaj shares his plans to launch the world's first CNG bike in 2025. Says he plans to double the production and sale of the Triumph motorcycle in the third quarter. Also says the two-wheeler industry suffers from over-regulation and taxation. Says the company has not yet come back to its pre-COVID levels. GST authorities issue a demand notice to Zomato and Swiggy amounting to 750 crore rupees. Sources allege non-payment of GST on delivery fee over a 6-year period. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. After a 2-month pause, India resumes all online visa services for Canadian nationals. Medical businesses and visa services were restored last month. The move is a potential de-escalation by New Delhi after Canada was told to reduce diplomatic presence following a spat over the killing of a Sikh separatist in Canada. As always, let's start with the market action for the day. The Sensex and the Nifty closing in the green after a last hour rally. So the Sensex added about 90 points, 92 to be precise. 66,023 is where the Sensex closed for the day. The Nifty flat but in positive territory, up by about 28 points. The Nifty Bank was down by about 0.5% or so. The Nifty mid-cap closed over 100 points higher. That's the story as far as the markets were concerned. And of course, bank stocks declining in trade after comments from the Reserve Bank governor on unsecured credit. Mid-caps, as we pointed out, marginally did outperform the blue chips, with the index gaining nearly 150 points. Now, 5 IPOs opened on the Lal Street today. Tata Tech and 3 others have seen strong demand and fully subscribed on day one. Yash is standing by with the IPO wrap. Yash, take us through the day one performance.
Well, Shireen, 5 IPOs opened today and 1 opened yesterday. So technically about 6 IPOs are open today as far as subscription is concerned. Let's start with the IPOs that are opening today. That is the first day. And to start with Tata Tech IPO, the first IPO from the Tata Group in about 19 years. 475 to 500 rupees is the price band. 3,000 crore is what the company intends to raise. The IPO got fully subscribed just in the first 2 hours, and you see any segment, QIB, HNI, retail, all of them getting subscribed anywhere between 4 times to 10 times. Now, interestingly, though all the sections of the investors are fully subscribed, employee portion is very close to fully subscription, but not yet fully subscribed. Let's come to the next one, Gandhar Oil IPO, price band 160 to 169 rupees a share. The company intends to raise 500 crore through this IPO, and again a very strong response as far as subscription is concerned. Total IPO subscribed about 4.5 times, QIB portion 1.5 times, HNI portion 6 times, and retail portion 6 times as well. Flair Writing Industries IPO also opens today, day one. The price band is 288 to 304 rupees per share. IPO size is 593 crore rupees. The total IPO has already been subscribed by about 5 times. QIB portion subscribed 50%, HNI portion 1.65 times, and retail portion getting subscribed 2 times. Fedbank Financial, day one again for that IPO, 133 to 140 rupees per share. The company intends to raise about 1100 crore rupees as far as the IPO is concerned. The IPO is seeing slow response as far as the entire list is concerned. IPO is only subscribed about 30% so far. QIB portion has nil subscription so far. HNI portion 15%, retail portion 55%, employee portion about 30%. So strong subscription as far as Flair is concerned, as far as Gandhar Oil is concerned, and Tata Tech is concerned. But the response has been relatively slow for Fedbank Financial.
All right, Yash, many thanks for joining us. That's the IPO pipeline. Now, what's up for grabs this week? The government has cancelled the bidding process to hire an asset valuer for the strategic disinvestment of IDBI Bank. Now, the centre will invite new bids to select a valuer for its stake in the lender. Sources say the government has received only a single bid to appoint the asset valuer and will likely review criteria to increase interest. So back to square one there as far as the IDBI Bank stake sale is concerned. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Bharti Group's first public offering after a decade is in the pipeline. The conglomerate has begun the process for the IPO of its subsidiary, Bharti Hexacom. Sources say that Bharti Hexacom's valuation is likely to be pegged at 20,000 crore rupees, and the listing process is likely to be completed by early 2024. The IPO aims to give the government-owned telecommunication consultants India a partial or a full exit. Now, shares of Adani Ports declined in trade after West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee urged interested parties to bid for the deep-sea port development project at Tajpur. Now, this has raised questions over the Adani Group's involvement with the project. Remember, the West Bengal Industrial Development Corporation had given a letter of award to Adani Ports for this project in October last year. CNBC-TV18 has reached out to Adani Ports for a comment. We haven't received one just yet. Take a look.
Proposed first deep-sea port at Tajpur. That is ready. You can participate the tender, and also you can, this will attract an investment about $3 billion US, means 25,000 crores.
Well, that is the West Bengal Chief Minister. Question mark over the Adani Group's involvement now in the Tajpur port project, worth 25,000 crores. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has asked banks and NBFCs to build capital buffers and avoid exuberance in the case of any adverse turn in the business cycle. Now, this comes just days after the RBI tightened the rules on unsecured credit. Listen in.
Banks and NBFCs may take due care to ensure that credit growth at the overall sectoral and subsectoral levels remain sustainable, and all forms of exuberance must be avoided. Though the banks are well capitalized, they must constantly evaluate their exposure to NBFCs and the exposure of individual NBFCs to multiple banks. Certain NBFC MFIs appear to be enjoying relatively higher net interest margins. It is indeed for macrofinancial lenders themselves to ensure that the flexibility provided to them in setting interest rates is used judiciously.
That's the RBI governor. The big global story. Less than a week after he was sacked by the board of OpenAI, Sam Altman is set to return as CEO. The decision ends a dramatic, or hopefully ends a dramatic, 5-day standoff at the artificial intelligence company, which was thrown into turmoil. In a statement, OpenAI announced a new initial board, which does not include 3 of the 4 people involved in removing Altman. Former Salesforce executive Brett Taylor has been named as the new chairman of the board. Taylor was also the chairman of the Twitter board when it decided to sell the company to Elon Musk. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has been named a new member of the board. The other board members are Adam D'Angelo, the co-founder and CEO of the online question and answer forum Quora. Interestingly, he was part of the previous board that sacked Altman. As things stand, Sam Altman is not part of the board. Soon after he was reinstated, Altman said he's looking forward to returning to OpenAI and building on the partnership with Microsoft, the largest investor in OpenAI. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said that he was encouraged by the change to to the OpenAI board. He said, and I quote, "We believe this is the first essential step on a path to more stable, well-informed and effective governance," end of quote. Reports suggest that the new OpenAI board is expected to add as many as 6 additional members. This move is also likely to bring closure to what has been a tumultuous 5-day standoff at OpenAI. Remember, more than 700 employees had rallied behind Sam Altman after his ouster. That, along with pressure from investors, including, of course, Microsoft, has forced the board to course correct. And as one CEO returns, another is walking out the door. The CEO of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, is stepping down after pleading guilty to violating anti-money laundering provisions in the U.S. Changpeng Zhao, popularly known as CZ, will make way for Richard Teng as the new CEO. Binance will also pay a hefty $4.3 billion as penalties as part of a deal with the U.S. regulators. This is likely to preserve the company's ability to remain in business. CNBC's Lin Lin is here with more.
The crux of what's happened, of course, is that this now ends this long-running investigation by multiple US agencies, except for the US SEC, into Binance, and they've reached basically a settlement that involves this payment by Binance of $4.3 billion. It also includes the appointment of an independent monitor to monitor its operations going forward. Now, its founder, Changpeng Zhao, he's agreed to step down as the CEO, and he's also pleaded guilty earlier today of breaking criminal anti-money laundering laws. He'll personally have to pay a $50 million fine as well. And on the website, X, formerly known as Twitter, he said that, this was the right thing to do. We know that the head of regional markets in Binance, Richard Teng, has been named as the new chief executive. A couple of hours ago, we heard from the heads of multiple US agencies, including the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Now, we also heard more details about the allegations levelled against Binance, which includes failure to prevent and report suspicious activity and transactions related to US-designated terrorist organisations such as groups affiliated with Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al-Qaeda and IS, as well as supporting transactions in relation to child sexual abuse and illegal drugs. We also heard from Merrick Garland, who is the Attorney General. He had a pretty clear message, which is that you can use new technology to break the law. That doesn't make you a disruptor, it makes you a criminal. Let's take a listen.
In August 2017, Zhao founded Binance as a platform where users could trade in cryptocurrency. But from the very beginning, Zhao and other Binance executives engaged in a deliberate and calculated effort to profit from the U.S. market without implementing the controls that are required by U.S. law.
Well, that is the latest in the settlement that Binance has managed in the U.S., a hefty penalty of $4.3 billion and a change at the top. In global earnings, chipmaker NVIDIA beat street estimates for the third quarter, fueled by strong demand for graphic processing units used in generative artificial intelligence. Revenue rose 200% compared to last year, while net income rose to over $9 billion. However, the software major said that U.S. curbs restricting exports to China could hurt its performance in the next quarter. The big exclusive and the big newsmaker this evening, Bajaj Auto's MD Rajiv Bajaj has said that the company hopes to launch the world's first CNG two-wheeler in 2025. Speaking with our colleague Parikshit Luthra, Bajaj said the company expects its Triumph motorcycle sales to more than double from its second quarter sales of 8,000 units. He also said that the two-wheeler industry has not bounced back from its pre-COVID levels just yet, and the sector has suffered from over-regulation and taxation. Take a look.
We are taken a little bit by surprise, I must admit. We had prepared ourselves for 5,000 a month because, primarily the market leader there, Royal Enfield, is a very tall and very deep brand. All of us have tried over and over again in recent years, but nobody's really been able to make an impact. So our initial capacity, as I had shared with you previously, was for 5,000 a month. And yes, last quarter we have done, I think, 8,000 totally. This quarter, I think we should more than double that. to about 18,000, which means an average of 6,000. So out of a capacity of 5,000 a month, we will hopefully be able to squeeze out 6,000 triumphs on an average every month this quarter. We are in very early stages of the game. So what I'm prepared to say today is that this is not something we are about to launch, in this year or something like that. But I'm prepared to say that within the calendar year 25, which means within the next 2 years, we would certainly hope. I would not say we have decided to, but we are very hopeful of launching this motorcycle. And let me tell you why primarily, Parikshit. There doesn't exist a CNG two-wheeler in the world today, to the best of my knowledge, unless, there is some jugaad stuff happening somewhere, as there is in India also. I'm told people retrofit.
Well, that's Bajaj Auto. Now, the Director General of GST Intelligence has issued a demand notice to food delivery apps Zomato and Swiggy for non-payment of GST on delivery fee that they charge. The GST body insists that since the delivery is a service, the food aggregators are liable to pay GST. Timsy standing by with the latest. Timsy, what does this mean for Zomato and Swiggy?
Well, what we understand from DGGI sources is that DGGI has issued GST demand notice to Swiggy and Zomato. This is based on the investigation which was initiated by the Pune zone of DGGI against Swiggy and Zomato on non-payment of GST on delivery fees. Swiggy and Zomato have been given a demand notice for the period between July 2017 till March 2023, and the estimated demand from Zomato is over 400 crore rupees, whereas for Swiggy is around 350 crore rupees. Meanwhile, when we reached out to officers, they shared that DGGI is of a view that delivery is a service, so Swiggy and Zomato are liable to pay GST on the service that they provide for delivery of goods. Meanwhile, industry is of a view that Swiggy and Zomato are just platforms. They hire gig workers on per delivery basis, and they are just collecting it from the consumers to be handed over to gig workers just because they are the platform. They don't collect this service on their personal basis, and thus they are not liable to pay GST. It is the gig workers who are liable to pay the GST, and since they are under the 20 lakh crore threshold, they are exempt from GST. Meanwhile, when we reached out to Swiggy and Zomato for their comments, there are no comments so far. But yes, what we have to see now is whether these two companies will contest the demand or whether they'll pay to the GST authorities. That is to be seen. Back to you.
Timsy, many thanks for joining us. Time for us to head into break. But up next, Israel agrees to a 4-day ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas will release 50 Israeli women and children as part of the deal which was brokered by Qatar. That and more when we return. Well, here's the latest from Uttarakhand, where operations to rescue 41 workers trapped inside an under-construction tunnel has now entered day 11. Rescue workers have resumed drilling to prepare an escape passage. Authorities have said that they expect a breakthrough, hopefully within the next 24 hours. Furthermore, state authorities have also said that essential items like electrolyte powder, multivitamin tablets are being sent to the trapped workers inside the tunnel through the lifeline pipe. Network 18's Anshul Singh is here with the latest.
The rescue operations out here are in full flow, and at this point in time, I'll just try and show you the visuals. The drilling operation will start in the next few minutes is what we have been told. At this point, the pipes that are being taken inside through which the welding process will happen is going inside. What we have been told that the 5th pipe at this point in time will be welded in the next few minutes. Post that, we are expecting that this entire drilling process would start. It actually takes somewhere around 2.5 to 3 hours for this entire welding process to happen, because remember, once the welding is happening, it takes somewhere around 2 hours, and post that 2 hours, it takes actually half an hour for that pipes to cool down, and then this entire drilling process starts. If everything goes according to the plans of the rescuers, it is expected that within the next 2 days we can get the good news that we are hoping to hear for the last 2 days. It is still a big question mark if everything will go according to the plan. You can see in the visuals over here how cranes are now being used to take these pipes inside. These pipes are going to prove the lifeline through which all these people would be dragged out eventually if everything goes according to the plan. So yes, the rescue operations are in full flow.
Well, there is hope that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. After days of negotiations with Hamas, Israel has finally agreed for a temporary ceasefire, pausing its offensive in Gaza for 4 days. Now, as part of the deal, Hamas will release 50 Israeli women and children that have been held as hostage in Gaza. Israel will free 150 Palestinian women and children from its jails. The first hostage return is expected tomorrow. The deal also entails the passage of more number of humanitarian convoys and relief aid. In his address to the cabinet, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the first hostages should be free within 48 hours of the agreement. And before we wrap, India has resumed all online visa services for Canadian nationals after a 2-month pause. Medical and business visa services were restored last month. The move is a potential de-escalation by both sides after Canada was told to reduce diplomatic presence following a spat over the killing of Sikh separatists in Canada and the allegations made by Canada against India. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news will continue after this short break.